Alright, so I recorded the first part of this video before rotation, but I wasn't able to record the second part of this video until after rotation. So a lot of cards I end up talking about have since gone free as part of the 8 new free default decks, or as part of the new Battle Pass decks. On screen right now is a quick list of all the staple cards you'll find in those free decks, so keep these in mind as the video continues. Anyways, let's get started. When rotation comes to Pokemon TCG Live on March 30th, it will remove all of the D-block cards from Standard. This means you'll no longer be able to use cards like Quick Ball, Evolution Incense, Crobat V, Ordinary Rod, and much more. So I'll be giving you a rundown of all the new staple cards you'll want in your collection to prepare for post-rotation play. Unlike my crafting guides for new sets, this video will include cards you already own for free simply by playing live. But since I don't know when you join live or which free decks you own, I'll include every card worth owning. Before we begin, I'll quickly show you how to craft cards you don't own. While editing a deck, go to Filters, then under Show Cards, click All. Now every card in that format will appear. If you want to see every card in live, which goes all the way back to black and white base set, select All under Format as well. Then you have to click on the card, select the art you want under Available, then hit Exchange and confirm exchange. It's a question I see asked all the time, so hopefully this helped. And because I haven't stalled enough, I want to make one thing very clear. I'm highlighting cards that are useful in more than just a single deck. So you won't see me talking about Mew VMAX or Fusion Strike cards. Well, technically I just did, but not again. This is about the most useful cards, not the best decks. Alright, after all that, let's finally get started with the supporters. Likely the two most popular supporters this year will be Professor's Research and Boss's Orders. Professor's Research discards your hand and draws you 7 cards. Extremely powerful and a must for most of the decks out there. Boss's Orders, meanwhile, allows you to put any Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field into the active spot. This means you can pick and choose which Pokemon you damage or knock out on that turn. Do note that both of these cards feature different professors or bosses on them, but all of the different versions will be legal in Standard. And since they've been included for free in so many decks in TCG Live, odds are you have a playset of them in your collection. Now, because I'm trying to future-proof this video as much as possible, I will be highlighting cards coming in our second Scarlet and Violet set, Paldea Evolved, which launches on June 9th. The first of these upcoming cards is Iono. Get ready to see a lot of Iono after it comes out. The effect says, each player shuffles their hand and puts it on the bottom of their deck. Then, each player draws a card for each of their remaining prize cards. This is effectively a combination of N and Marnie from previous formats, and it will be the perfect card to play if you're losing in a game. Let's say your opponent takes 4 quick prize cards and you've done nothing. Play Iono and all of a sudden they have a 2-card hand while you have a 6-card hand. The reason Iono is better than something like Roxanne is that Roxanne can only be played if your opponent has 3 or fewer prize cards remaining. Iono can be played at any time. Until Iono launches in June though, you'll want to play Judge instead. Judge is simple. Both players shuffle their hands into their deck and draw 4 cards. Other useful draw supporters in 2023 include Avery, Bruno, Colress's Experiment, Cynthia's Ambition, Melanie, Serena, and Worker. Avery can mess up your opponent by forcing them to discard bench Pokemon, provided they have more than 3 of them, while also drawing you 3 cards. Colress's Experiment lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put 3 into your hand, and send 2 to the Lost Zone. While 4 Colress is an absolute must in any Lost Zone deck, it does have added utility in a deck like Arceus Duraludon. Sending a couple of useless cards to the Lost Zone means you don't have to worry about seeing them off of a Judge or a Roxanne. For single prize decks, we have Bruno and Cynthia's Ambition. While they each have fairly basic draw effects to begin with, they get more powerful if one of your Pokemon was knocked out the previous turn. Bruno goes from a Shuffle Draw 4 to a Shuffle Draw 7, while Cynthia's Ambition goes from a draw up to 5 to a draw up to 8. Then we have Melanie, which attaches a water energy from your discard pile to any of your Pokemon V, while also drawing you 3 cards. While we are getting EX cards with Scarlet and Violet, meaning Melanie doesn't work with them, V Pokemon will still be super popular and Melanie is a great way to power them up. Another Draw 3 supporter with an added effect is Worker. While it may seem weak at first, Path to the Peak is a stadium that shuts off all Rulebox Pokemon abilities. Worker is able to bump that. You'll probably only need 1 Worker though, so don't feel the need to work overtime. And then we have Serena. The usefulness will go down slightly now that we do have those EX Pokemon, but it's still great. Serena gives you a choice. You can either discard up to 3 cards from your hand, then draw up to 5, or gust up one of your opponent's Pokemon V. Obviously, if you face a deck only running EXs, then it loses some of its effectiveness, but overall, Serena is something that you'll still want to own in 2023. Supporters that can just find you stuff are Adventurous Discovery, Arven, Irida, and Raihan. Adventurous Discovery won't find much usefulness outside of decks with high counts of VMAX or V-Star Pokemon, as it allows you to go and get any 3 V Pokemon from your deck. Arven is a new supporter, allowing you to go and get any item and any tool card from your deck. This means you can get something like Lost Vacuum or Electric Generator, as well as Choice Belt or Forest Sealstone in the same turn. For Irida, you'll mostly play this in a water deck, as it allows you to go and get any item plus any water Pokemon. In addition to combos like Rare Candy and a Stage 2, Irida can be useful on turn 1 going second as well, getting you something like Battle VIP Pass and then another basic water Pokemon to strengthen your turn. As for Raihan, it only activates if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. It allows you to attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to any of your Pokemon, then go and get any card from your deck. It's extremely useful to keep your attackers powered up turn after turn. Recovery supporters in 2023 are Clara, Miriam, and Roseanne's backup. With the loss of Ordinary Rod, Recovery is going to be super interesting until the Super Rod reprint in June. Clara allows you to go and get any 2 Pokemon and any 2 basic energy from your discard pile and put them into your hand. This is great for Evolution decks, Lost Zone decks, or for surprising your opponent with one of the Galarian birds. Miriam, meanwhile, shuffles up to 5 Pokemon back into your deck, then draws you 3 cards. It doesn't get energy, but if you have a deck with a lot of Pokemon, Miriam can bail you out. And then we have Roseanne's backup. This shuffles a Pokemon, Tool, Stadium, and any 1 energy back into your deck. Roseanne's probably the weakest of the 3, but if you play a deck that relies on special energy, it is a way to get one of them back. Now let's talk about healing supporters. Charon's Care can put any damaged colorless Pokemon back into your hand, while Penny can put any basic Pokemon back into your hand. Charon's Care has the advantage of working on something like Arceus V-Star, but Penny has the benefit of working on literally every basic Pokemon regardless of whether or not it's damaged. Cheryl, meanwhile, heals all of your evolved Pokemon but discards all energy from them. Used properly, it can buy yourself another turn or 2. Used improperly, it can cost you the game. A couple of stragglers are Grant and Peonia. Grant boosts the damage of your fighting Pokemon by 30 that turn, and you can also get it back into your hand thanks to its secondary effect. And Peonia allows you to look at 3 of your prize cards and switch up to 3 of them with cards in your hand. If you're ever playing a deck where prizing can really mess you up, Peonia is here to help. And that'll do it for supporters. On screen, you can see the list of every supporter you should have in your TCG Live collection for 2023. I've also included counts for all of them, since some you don't need more than 2 copies of. While most trainer cards only cost 100 credits to craft in Live if you don't own them, a holo trainer like Irida costs 425 credits, so keep that in mind. Like the weird kid in gym class, now it's time to play with your balls. Having powerful Pokemon in your deck is great, but if you can't find them, it doesn't really matter. Your Pokemon search cards post-rotation are fairly straightforward. Nest Ball can go and get any basic Pokemon and put it on your bench. Ultra Ball can go and get any Pokemon and put it into your hand at the cost of discarding 2 cards from your hand. When you're building a deck in 2023, start off with 4 of each. Then we have 2 other important search cards, Battle VIP Pass and Capturing Aroma. Battle VIP Pass is great, as it allows you to put any 2 basic Pokemon from your deck directly onto your bench. The downside is that it only works on the first turn of the game. After that, it's completely useless. Still, getting 4 copies is a great idea. And for a necessary card you'll end up hating, we have Capturing Aroma. You flip a coin, and based on the result, you can either get an evolution or a basic. The reason you'd play Capturing Aroma over Great Ball is that Great Ball can fail. Capturing Aroma is always guaranteed to get you something, you just don't know who it's gonna be. For more deck-specific search, there's Fog Crystal and Level Ball. Fog Crystal only really works in Psychic decks, allowing you to get either a basic Psychic Pokemon or a basic Psychic Energy. Level Ball can be played in a lot of decks, but it's obviously more suited for low HP decks, as it can go and get you any Pokemon with 90 hit points or less. If you're running something like a Stage 2 deck, Level Ball can be really great for finding your basics in Stage 1s. In terms of Pokemon search in 2023, these are the cards you want to own, and odds are most of them are already in your collection from the free decks. If any are missing, they only cost 100 credits each to craft. I didn't show off Hisui and Heavy Ball, but you'll want at least 1 copy, as it can go and get any 1 basic Pokemon from your prizes. Now the rest of the item cards. Since I don't want to spend an hour covering every item in existence, I'll keep the list tighter than an Amoris's tail wrapped around its own neck. But on screen right now are some of the items you should definitely still have in your collection, they just aren't worth singling out. And keep in mind that every item card mentioned in this section only costs 100 credits to craft if you don't own them. Alright, let's begin with the switching cards. With the loss of Stoop Up Net due to rotation, things are simple. There's the basic Switch, which can switch any of your Pokemon, as well as Switch Cart, which can only switch one of your basic Pokemon, but it does heal 30 damage from that Pokemon. And then there's Escape Row. It forces your opponent to switch their active with one of their bench Pokemon, potentially giving you a better target to KO. At the same time, you switch your active with one of your bench Pokemon. Switch cards are absolute musts in your deck, otherwise you have to waste energy trying to retreat someone stuck in the active. If you don't want to use a supporter to bring up one of your opponent's Pokemon, then you have to rely on Cross Switcher or Pokemon Catcher. Each has their own drawbacks. Pokemon Catcher relies on a coin flip, so 90% of the time it will be tails. As for Cross Switcher, you have to play two of them at the same time. And if you do, you switch both your active and your opponent's active, so keep that in mind. Now the energy acceleration. Electric Generator is going to be great. The only downside is that it only works for lightning types and lightning energy. It allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, then attach up to 2 lightning energy to your bench lightning Pokemon however you want. Another type-specific accelerator is Dark Patch. It just attaches a dark energy to any one of your bench dark Pokemon. If you're playing a dark deck, it's almost guaranteed to have Dark Patch. And finally, Mirage Gate. It will only work in Lost Zone decks that play cards like Comfey and Colress, but it's crazy powerful. Once you hit 7 cards in the Lost Zone, you can search your deck for 2 basic energy of different types, then attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. And here are the recovery cards. Pal Pad shuffles up to 2 supporters back into your deck, while Rescue Carrier can go and get up to 2 Pokemon from your discard pile and put them into your hand. They just have to have 90 hit points or less. These 2 can be really useful in certain decks, but not every deck will play them. Same with Superior Energy Retrieval, which is coming out on June 9th. It's like regular energy retrieval, which gets you 2 energy, but superior. Now, by discarding 2 cards from your hand, you can grab 4 energy from your discard pile. It'll be deck specific, but decks that can use it will absolutely love it. Something a lot of decks will play is Super Rod. This is also coming out on June 9th in Paldea Evolved, and will replace Miriam as our Pokemon recovery. Another reprint, Super Rod allows you to shuffle 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy back into your deck. For the miscellaneous items, there's Crushing Hammer for annoying your opponents by removing their energy, Rare Candy, which is an absolute must in Stage 2 decks, allowing you to evolve a basic directly into the Stage 2, and Lost Vacuum, which allows you to send any Stadium or Tool card in play to the Lost Zone, though you do have to put a card from your hand into the Lost Zone to activate it. Once all is said and done, these are the staple items you want in your collection for 2023, with the absolute best ones starred. Like I said, you probably own most of these already, but if you don't, it's just 100 credits to craft each of them. If you haven't heard me mention it a million times before, Tool cards will become their own category when Scarlet and Violet launches on March 30th. For the year 2023, there aren't a ton of tools worth owning. We'll kick things off with the damage modifiers, Choice Belt and Defiance Band. Choice Belt boosts the damage you deal to Pokemon V, including V-Star and V-Max, by 30. It's useless against DXs, but the format will still have plenty of V Pokemon for you to destroy. Defiance Band boosts the damage you deal by 30, regardless of who the defending Pokemon is, but you do have to be behind on prizes. Basically, Defiance Band only activates when you're losing. We're losing Cape of Toughness with rotation, but the replacement isn't too far behind. Coming this June in Paldea Evolved is Charm of Courage, which boosts the hit points of any basic Pokemon by 50. And because I don't want Charm of Courage to be alone, I'll chuck in Leafy Camo Poncho here. Realistically, it just stops your opponent from using Boss's Orders against the V-Star or V-Max it's attached to. Definitely worth owning, but you probably won't play it all that much. Finally, we have the Stones. Forest Seal Stone is great, allowing any Pokemon V to have a V-Star power, with this one allowing you to go and get any 1 card from your deck. And although it's been broken in 2 different ways on TCG Live, Sky Seal Stone should work properly now. Basically, if you use a basic V Pokemon like Drapion V to knock out a V-Star or V-Max like Mew V-Max, after activating the V-Star power, you take 1 extra prize card. Yeah, it's a little confusing, but once you figure it out, it's actually really good. Since the stones are holo rares, they cost 425 credits each to craft, up from the usual 100. The good news is that you don't need more than 2 of each stone. For Choice Belt and Defiance Band, get at least 2 of each, and for Charm of Courage, you want as many as 4. Rotation took an insane amount of special energy from us, leaving us with only a handful of playable ones in 2023. The first one you want 4 copies of is Double Turbo Energy. It provides any Pokemon with 2 colorless energy, but any damage you deal is reduced by 20. This card is integral to Zoroark, Mew VMAX, Arceus V-Star, and so many other decks, so you absolutely need it in your collection. You also want to have V-Dart Energy and Gift Energy. V-Dart Energy reduces the damage you take from Pokemon V by 30. Since EX Pokemon will be a thing, you only need 1 or 2 in your deck, but it can potentially save one of your Pokemon from getting knocked out and buy you an extra turn. On the flip side, Gift Energy is great for decks that expect to have Pokemon get knocked out. With Gift Energy, when the Pokemon it's attached to is KO'd, you draw up to 7 cards in hand. Lugia will begin using Gift Energy now, and Blissey V will continue to use it. It's also a great card for single prize decks, allowing you to constantly have a full hand. And finally, the Strike Energy. Single Strike Energy boosts the damage Single Strike Pokemon deal by 20, and it stacks, so it's great for the new version of Lugia V-Star as well as regular old Single Strike decks with Houndoom. Fusion Strike Energy really only has a place in Mew, and only in the Elisa's Sparkle versions of Mew. And Rapid Strike Energy definitely helps Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, but unfortunately it appears that Rapid Strike Pokemon won't be all that useful this year. Still, you want to have 4 copies of all this energy in your collection. We do have some special energy coming in Paldea Evolved this June, but they don't appear to be all that useful. So for now, and at least the next few months, this is the special energy you want to have crafted and live. And for the final category before we get to Pokemon, there's stadiums. First up is Pokemon Search. Stormy Mountains allows either player to search their deck for a basic Lightning or Dragon type and put it directly onto their bench. Mesa Goza from Scarlet and Violet base set allows either player to flip a coin. If it's heads, they can put any Pokemon from their deck into their hand. And Artizone, coming in Paldea Evolved on June 9th, allows either player to go into their deck and put any basic Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box onto their bench. Depending on the deck you play, these should all be considered as inclusions. Then we have Beach Court and Lost City. Beach Court is one of the reasons why Lost Box will be the best deck in 2023. While Scoop Up Net may have rotated, Beach Court allows a Comfey to retreat for free every single turn, meaning Lost Box players need to use up one less switch or escape rope to continue building up their Lost Zone. Lost City, meanwhile, is a great tool for decks to disrupt your opponent. Using Mew VMAX as an example, Drapion V is a huge problem for the deck, but if you manage to knock out your opponent's only Drapion V while Lost City is in play, it goes to the Lost Zone and can never be recovered. So if you think Lost City is solely for beefing up someone's Lost Zone, think again. Now we come to our main disruption stadiums, Path to the Peak and Temple of Sinnoh. Path to the Peak will continue to be one of the most played stadiums as it shuts down the abilities of all Rulebox Pokemon, including Radiance, V, V-Star, VMAX, and now EX. It's extremely powerful and can effectively lock your opponent out of a game if it's played at the right time. Temple of Sinnoh shuts off all special energy, turning them into a colorless energy with no additional effects. Even with fewer special energy in the format, Temple of Sinnoh can still be annoying against Lugia and Mew. Another stadium to own is Collapse Stadium, which reduces the number of bench Pokemon each player can have from 5 to 4 and is perfect for bumping a useless Lumineon V or a heavily damaged Pokemon. Or if you're running a Metal or Dragon deck, there's Crystal Cave, which allows you to heal 30 damage from each of your Pokemon every single turn. Lastly, we come to the miscellaneous stadiums. Lesson Studio coming in June boosts the damage all Stage 1 Pokemon do by 10. It might seem minor, but more damage is rarely a bad thing. Wilderness of Disaster, also coming in June, increases the retreat of every non-fighting basic Pokemon by 1, perfect for annoying Lost Box players. Pokestop is a lie, but if you're feeling risky, it can get you item cards, at the cost of potentially just discarding the top 3 cards of your deck. And Magma Basin is a great stadium for fire decks, as it allows you to attach a basic fire energy from your discard pile to one of your bench fire Pokemon at the cost of putting 2 damage counters on it. These are all the stadiums you want to own in 2023. I included recommended counts for all of them, but realistically it will vary from deck to deck. If you have enough credits, just craft 4 of each, which shouldn't be too difficult given that they're only 100 credits each. Now we come to the Pokemon. As a refresher, this is what it costs to craft each card of each rarity. For this section, the majority of cards are either rares or holo rares, V or EX, and V-Star or VMAX, so the cost to craft these cards dramatically jumps when compared to trainers. To begin with, we have the support Pokemon. The 2 best support Pokemon in 2023 are Lumineon V and Squawkabilly EX. Lumineon goes and gets any supporter from your deck, while Squawkabilly allows you to discard your hand and draw 6 cards, except only on turn 1. These are both extremely powerful, and when building a deck, you should put 1 of each in there. Just be aware that they're both Rulebox Pokemon, and their abilities are turned off by Path to the Peak. For draw Pokemon that you can use turn after turn, the best is Bibarel. It's just a great card that draws you up to 5 cards with little to no hassle. An added benefit is that the Bidoof from Crown Zenith is immune to damage while on the bench, so its chances of surviving early are increased. Less good options are Kricketune V, which can draw you up to 3 or 4 cards, and Revavroom, which can draw you up to 6, but you have to discard energy from your hand. Honestly, just go with Bibarel, it's the best. Now for all of the useful Radiant Pokemon. You can only have 1 Radiant card in your deck, not just 1 of each, but 1 total. Easily the best is Radiant Greninja. By discarding an energy card from your hand, you get to draw 2 cards. Not only that, its attack does 90 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, so it's always a threat in decks that play water energy. Radiant Venusaur can also be helpful in certain decks, drawing you up to 4 cards after you end your turn. A few other Radiants are Gardevoir, which reduces damage you take from Vs, Serena, which heals 20 damage every turn, and Jirachi, which goes and gets any 3 cards from your deck when it's knocked out. Just don't forget that Path to the Peak shuts off all Radiant Pokemon abilities. For cards that keep your Pokemon safe from danger, the main one is Manaphy. It keeps your bench Pokemon safe from damage, and it is an absolute must in pretty much every deck with single prizers. Just keep in mind that it only stops damage, not damage counters. We also have Dunsparce, which removes weakness from colorless Pokemon, Diancie, which protects your bench basic Pokemon from boss's orders, and Espeon VMAX, which protects all of your Pokemon with energy attached from the effects of your opponent's attacks. This means that something like Sableye Lost Mine will be useless since it's an effect, not damage. In terms of energy accelerators, there's a few different ones, each serving different decks. Baxcalibur coming in Paldea Evolved allows you to attach all water energy in your hand to your Pokemon in any way you like. It being a stage 2 kinda sucks, but is powerful nonetheless. Cherim is similar, except it's a stage 1, only works with grass energy, and you can only attach that energy to Pokemon without a rule box. Then we have Houndoom and Archeops. I know they're deck specific, but I feel like leaving them out would be wrong since there's so many different ways to play Single Strike and Lugia. With Houndoom, you can search your deck for a Single Strike energy, then attach it to one of your Single Strike Pokemon, putting 2 damage counters on it in the process. You probably already know what Archeops does, but after putting it into play with Lugia's V-Star power, you can search your deck for up to 2 of any special energy cards, then attach them to one of your Pokemon. Lugia has obviously fallen a bit with rotation, but as more special energy is released, it will continue to get better. And lastly, there's Flaffy. Even with the release of Electric Generator, Flaffy still has lots of use, because let's be honest, lightning energy will hit the discard pile, and Flaffy is the best at getting it back. And now we come to a card that terrifies every Mew VMAX player, Spiritomb. Coming in Paldea Evolved this June, it shuts off the abilities of all basic Pokemon V in play, and Spiritomb itself can simply be on the bench, it doesn't need to be in the active. This means Genesect V can't use its ability to draw cards, but it's not without a counter. Mew VMAX can still play Fusion Strike energy, attach it to Genesect, and be safe from Spiritomb's effect. Another Pokemon that shuts off abilities is Klefki. It turns off the abilities of every basic Pokemon in play, but it has to be in the active spot to work. And there's Empoleon V, which turns off abilities from basic non-rulebox Pokemon. Ultimately though, Spiritomb will be the most played, while Klefki can be useful in certain decks. I also chucked in Ting-Lu EX, which shuts off the abilities of all your opponent's non-EX Pokemon with damage counters on them, so long as Ting-Lu is in the active. It's very easy to follow. It wasn't easy narrowing down the support Pokemon to keep this section from going on for an hour. Comfey definitely deserves to be here. It's the backbone of every Lost Zone deck, and Lost Zone decks can be played in so many different ways. For decks with high counts of items, there's Mew from Celebrations. It looks at the top 6 cards of your deck, then allows you to get any one item card. So if you use items like Pokegear, Energy Search, or Energy Lotto, you can increase your chances of finding supporters or energy turn after turn. And with Beach Court, you can retreat your Comfey and Mew very easily. I definitely want to take a minute to talk about the Gardevoir line. With the release of Gardevoir EX, a powerful new deck has appeared. While Gardevoir EX on its own would be great, it can attach tons of energy from the discard pile, putting 2 damage counters on the recipient for each. There's other Pokemon in this line that take it even further. Refinement Kirlia discards a card from your hand to draw 2 cards. Buddy Catch Delayed gets you a supporter turn after turn. And Shining Arcana Gardevoir either draws cards, attaches energy, or both. Make sure you have all of these in your collection because Gardevoir is super powerful right now. I want to finish up by mentioning some damage boosters. Regieleki VMAX boosts the damage of basic lightning Pokemon by 30. Rapidash boosts the damage of fire Pokemon by 30 when you discard a fire energy from your hand. And the Kanto Birds all boost the damage of basic Pokemon of their corresponding type by 10. And best of all of these effects stack. For example, if you get 4 Regieleki VMAX in play, you're doing an extra 120 damage with any basic lightning Pokemon. Because I totally don't want as many people to comment on this video as possible to mention cards I missed, I'll end the coverage of support Pokemon here. What you're seeing on screen right now is all of the cards you want to own, or at least heavily think about owning in 2023. I didn't include credit costs for each individual card, as they can range from 100 credits to 1,000 credits, so please refer to the card cost guide that I showed a few minutes ago. Moving to the attacking staple Pokemon, the number 1 card you want is Drapion V. It's the perfect counter to Mew VMAX, able to take a one-shot KO for 0 energy. You do have to worry about cards like Lost City and Path to the Peak, but Drapion is still amazing. And you can even use Sky Seal Stone to take 4 prizes on a Mew VMAX rather than the usual 3. Then there's the Pokemon with immunity. Because shred attacks that go through card effects are so prevalent in 2023, they aren't as good as they were even a year ago, but Miltank and Mimikyu can still cause problems. Miltank is immune to damage from Pokemon V, while Mimikyu is immune to damage from Pokemon V and Pokemon EX. Miltank has higher HP and a potentially better attack, while Mimikyu has the added benefit of being safe from EX and V. And if we ever find ourselves back in a world with a lot of basic heavy decks, Ice-Q can deal 70 damage, then keep itself completely safe to damage from basic Pokemon the following turn. If you don't mind the risk of a 3-prize Pokemon, Flying Pikachu VMAX also protects itself from basic Pokemon after attacking, dealing 160 damage in the process. Because I'm hungry, let's talk about the apples for a second. Flapple and Appleton are just really good single energy, single prize attackers that can fit into a lot of decks. For a single colorless energy, Flapple does 50 damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play with an ability. For a single colorless energy, Appleton does 70 damage for each special energy card attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. Flapple will likely be better early in 2023, while Appleton will get better as more special energy is released. Now we come to 4 different Pokemon that can all be splashed into different decks. Radiant Charizard's ability means it can attack for a single fire energy towards the end of the game, dealing 250 damage. Using Melanie, both Raikou V and Starmie V can be super powerful. Raikou V is great at knocking out Lugia V-Star, assuming Dunsparce isn't in play, while Starmie V just does 50 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. Again, Starmie is very helpful against Lugia V-Star and really any deck that puts a lot of energy in play. And then we have Yveltal from Celebrations. For 2 colorless energy, you can discard up to 3 special energy from your opponent's Pokemon. There's far less special energy in Standard now, but Yveltal is definitely something to have in your collection. To finish up, we have Arceus V and V-Star and Ditto. For a single double turbo energy, Arceus V can take any 3 basic energy from your deck and attach them to your Pokemon V in any way you like. Arceus V-Star can also attach energy from the deck, but it has the added benefit of dealing 180 damage and using its insane V-Star power, which gets you any 2 cards from your deck. Ditto, meanwhile, can copy the attack of any basic Pokemon in your discard pile, provided it doesn't have a rule box. This is more of a fun inclusion than anything, as it opens up a ton of possibilities for you to mess around with different strategies. These are the staple attacking Pokemon you'll want for 2023. I didn't talk about the 2 Galarian Moltres, which can deal some big damage and hit Mew VMAX and Gardevoir EX for weakness. Keep in mind that there are a lot of other powerful attacking Pokemon out there, I just wanted to highlight the ones with the uses in multiple different decks. We don't know when the next standard format rotation will take place, but it's a safe bet that it will happen around March 2024. When that happens, all cards from the E block will be removed from Standard. Essentially, this means that nearly every card released in Battle Styles, Chilling Reign, Evolving Skies, Celebrations, and Fusion Strike will be gone. Yes, you only have to put up with Mew VMAX for another year. I'll freely admit that I probably forgot about some cards in the whole shuffle here, so if you think something's missing from this video, let everyone know in the comments.